speech.
Good morning, everyone. Give us just another moment or two to get started.
Okay, we're good.
Well, welcome everyone to the November meeting of the Washington State Gambling Commission. As has been our nature over the last almost 2 years, virtual only. And with that, we have the kind of decorum that we need to adopt for these virtual meetings. So I would ask that everyone please stay muted except for commissioners and ex officio members unless you are called upon. And beyond that, we'll just do our best to work within this system. So I will remind everyone that we are recording this meeting and welcome. So to start us off, I'll ask our interim director to please call the roll.
Vice Chair Patterson.
Here.
Commissioner Levy.
She's excused for 30 minutes.
Commissioner Reeves.
Present.
Commissioner Lawson.
Present.
And Chair Sizemore.
Here.
Okay.
And our ex officios are expected a little bit later, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So we do have a quorum, so we may begin. I would like us to start with a moment of silence for those law enforcement officers that have been lost or injured in the line of duty since our last meeting. So a brief moment of silence, please. Thank you. With that, we are going to adjust our schedule just a little bit today well, I guess this is actually Commissioner Lawson's second meeting, but our first meeting was a special meeting here a week ago or so. So I would ask Commissioner Lawson if you would be willing to introduce yourself and tell us and those that have joined our meeting a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. My name is Sarah Rubino Lawson. I am an attorney with Schwabe, Williamson & Wyatt in Seattle, practicing federal Indian law and tribal law. Most of my background is in working in-house with tribes, but I've been with Schwabe for 5 or 6 years now. I am originally...
People on the side. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. I'm originally from California, but I did all of my education in the Midwest. So my bachelor's is from University of Michigan. My law degree is from University of Wisconsin. I also have an LLM in tax from the University of Washington. And I'm an enrolled member of the Iowa Tribe of Kansas and Nebraska, which is a federally recognized Indian tribe that is based in White Cloud, Kansas, which is in Northeast Kansas.
All right, so you have trouble in Pac-10 land, or excuse me, Big Ten land, and probably have trouble with the Rose Bowl occasionally.
Yes, I am a big college football fan, so that does take up most of my Saturdays in the fall.
There you go. Can you tell me, sir, how we sound here? Are we too loud, too quiet, anything?
No, you sound great.
Okay, perfect. So with that, we will now jump ahead to tab 2 in our materials, and in the interest of allowing our ex officios to participate, they have a limited availability today. We would like to do the compact amendment hearing for Soxhawtl Indian Tribe. And presenting for the tribe will be the Honorable Nino Maltos, Chairman, and Cale Van Winkle will also be with us, who is legal counsel to the tribe. For our agency, Tina Griffin, our interim director, and Julie Lease, our tribal liaison. So I'll hand it over to you, interim director Griffin.
Thank you. Can we just verify that Chair Maltos and Kale Van Winkle are available?
You know, and Kale, if you happen to be on, if you could unmute yourself and let us know.
Hey, this is Chairman Nino Maltos. I'm here.
Welcome, Chairman.
Kale Van Winkle is also present. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay.
Thank you. Didn't want to start without them.
Yes, there you go.
Okay. Well, so if we can go to the next slide, please. So we have 5 commissioners. We're excited to have a full panel of commissioners and welcome Sarah to Commissioner Lawson to the commission panel today. Second, as indicated, second commission meeting. So we're thrilled to have a full panel of commissioners. Next slide, please. So along with the commissioners, in terms of voting for the compact amendment today, we have 4 members of the legislature that serve as our ex officio members and are voting members of the commission for the purposes of voting on compact amendments. So all ex officios will be, these 4 ex officios will be available, can participate in the vote today. Next slide, please. So the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act of 1988 sets the foundation for Class 3 gaming on Indian lands when conducted in conformance with tribal state compacts. Next slide, please. So gaming activities on Indian lands are a means of generating tribal governmental revenue and to promote tribal economic development. Next slide, please. IGRA also sets out the negotiation topics that can be negotiated between tribe and state. Next slide, please. Our mission is to protect gambling, to ensure gambling is, to protect the public by ensuring gambling is legal and honest. Next slide, please. Which also coincides with protection of the public interest that the tribe shares in. So combined, we want to make sure there is no criminal activity, that we're minimizing the negative impacts to the local law enforcement and emergency services, and gaming is conducted fairly, honestly, and limited to only those authorized activities. Next slide, please. And with that, unless there are any questions, I will turn it over to Julie Lease, who is a bit under the weather, but is persevering today. Thank you, Julie.
Any questions for interim director Griffin? All right. Go ahead, Julie. Thank you for being here.
Yep. Yes, my voice goes in and out, so I'm going to do my best. For the record, my name is Julie Lease. I'm the Gambling Commission's tribal liaison. Most of the commissioners, with the exception of Commissioner Lawson, have seen this presentation many times, but I'll go ahead and go through it in an abbreviated format. Chairman, if that's acceptable.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. So the first background here is just talks about House Bill 2638, which was signed in March of 2020. It was the legislation that authorized sports wagering in tribal gaming facilities. And then here is a list of the items that were included in that bill and eventually in the law. Ooh, there we go. Okay. And then the other portion that we're sharing is, as far as background, is that these activities right here, use this. These activities here are what type of wagering is authorized. Here is what's prohibited. And then there's also some additional money laundering and criminal integrity provisions. The next few slides that you see are separated into what we are calling the 5 pillars. So it's the 5 areas of the bill that eventually ended up in the law. The first one is licensing. So we had 3 types of sports wagering vendors that were added. There was the gaming employees and non-sports wagering vendors continue to follow the normal compacting process. The rules for this were voted on in July by the commission for these vendors and the certification fees that are listed here. They became effective on August 30th. We continue to work on this prorated share of costs. We're making sure that costs aren't going into the right, what I'm calling bucket, to ensure that there's not any duplication of those costs. In the location, so there can be 3 locations for sports wagering: a sports book or something like a counter in a gaming facility. You can have kiosks that are either in the facility, so like on the gaming floor, or somewhere on the premises, and we'll talk about premises in a bit. And then mobile. The servers for sports wagering need to be in the gaming facility. And then if cloud storage is being used, it's used for backup only, and those servers need to be in Washington. So this chart was designed to kind of show how the premises was determined and kind of what guidelines we had from the legislative bill. So you can see here, statewide is prohibited. Tribal only was authorized. IGRA requires gaming to be on Indian lands for gaming. And then I'll move down here. So there was this in-person and on gaming floor kiosk piece, and then the mobile piece was somewhere in between Indian lands and the casino, and that's where we come up with premises. So the definition of premises is including adjacent or adjoining amenities such as hotels, restaurants, conference centers, common areas, parking lots, those types of things. It does not include non-adjoining convenience stores or golf courses. And how we arrived at this definition is we used Black's Law and Merriam-Webster definitions to help guide us on making this determination on this definition. Player accounts are required for all mobile gaming. The customer can register, but they can't start wagering mobile until they've had in-person identification and registration. So that means that they have to actually come on premises to for the operation to determine who they are, make sure they say who they are. The facility will also protect personal identifiable information, or PII. And there's an option for the use of a digital wallet. So a digital wallet would be something that could be used across the entire property for not just payment of wagers, but other things as well. There's that option. We don't have that implemented yet, but it's there as an option. Authorized wagers. So we will maintain, the State Gaming Agency will maintain an authorized wagering menu. We have that on our website currently. The initial list is agreed upon jurisdiction. So we work with the tribe to identify that initial list. And we did that so that we didn't have to go through a lot of approval. We could look at another jurisdiction that has an approval process and just move those wagers over. And then after that list has been established, if the tribe or the gaming operation wants to add new wagers, then the tribal gaming agency will approve those and then send them to our agency for review and to be added to that sports wagering menu. Prohibited wagers. We talked about the in-state colleges are one of the wagers that are prohibited in Washington. Also, minor league sports events where the outcome has already been determined. That seems to be kind of like, why would you do that? And just It's important to make sure that that is clear. And then sports events with underage participants, unless there's some sort of sports governing body like the Olympics. So to help kind of explain the impact of this not accepting wagers on in-state colleges, this is the most recent NCAA bracket from last March. So you'll see over here, Gonzaga was part of that tournament, as well as Eastern Washington. So these two red squares say, okay, somebody in Washington could not place bets on those games. They could place it on the rest, but not those two. And the other thing right out of the box for this is that since Gonzaga and Eastern Washington are part of this West bracket, somebody would not be able to bet on the outcome of that bracket. They could bet on individual games, but not on the outcome of the bracket. And then you can see as Gonzaga progressed through the tournament that each one of those games that included Gonzaga would be prohibited in Washington from accepting wagers, even up to the last championship final game. Also, there's prohibitions on proxy or agents. In other words, we don't want somebody sitting in the casino on the phone taking bets for other people. So that you're not going to be doing that. And then this section here, the athlete, player, coach, manager, referee, basically anybody that might have like intelligence or inside information about a particular team would be prohibited from placing a wager as well. Sorry. And then if you're on the self-exclusion list, you would be prohibited from wagering as well. The sports wagering system, GLI 33 is a common standard nationwide, even I think worldwide. And the systems need to meet those standards. It would be tested by an independent test lab or ITL. And then each TGA at each casino would approve whatever system that comes to their facility. And then there will be coordinated training on the system with the tribal gaming agencies and our agents. It's an agreed upon location. So it might be on property at the casino, it might be out of state, but we'll coordinate that. And then, so house rules and internal controls are pretty common in the compact now. Basically what this would allow for is, how it operates is that the tribe would create the house rules and the internal controls. TGA approves them. They send them to the state gaming agency or our staff for concurrence. This reserve requirement piece that's right here is just making sure that the gaming operation has enough money to cover whatever wagers they accept. And it could be any combination of assets that would be able to do that, whether it's bank accounts or cash on hand, any of those combinations, just making sure they had enough money to cover. Criminal enforcement. So for the anti-money laundering portion of it, anonymous wagers. In other words, this would be, let's say the casino doesn't know who I am. I can walk up and place up to $2,000 wager at a window or at a kiosk on the gaming floor without them checking my ID or finding out who I am. And the reason the kiosks on the gaming floor are under that umbrella and the ones that are not on the gaming floor require a player count is because the gaming floor itself has a lot more oversight with supervision and camera coverage and all of that. And then the tribes already follow federal anti-money laundering requirements. This adds sports wagering to that. And the tribe will also include in their internal controls what steps they're going to take related to the AML or anti-money laundering requirements. Each sports wagering operation is going to have an integrity monitoring provider, and there's going to be a notice that is going to be sent to our agency as well as the TGA about suspicious wagering. And then the info sharing, there's already information sharing within the compact itself. In this particular appendix, we added the requirements from the sports wagering RCW. And then the final pillar just acknowledges that the sports wagering net win will be included in the problem gambling contribution, that the tribe will create a responsible gaming policy that includes training, that there is the ability for mobile and player accounts to have some sort of self-imposed limits, things like maybe limits on the amount of time they spend gaming or the amount of money they spend. There's also on the mobile app and then on kiosks, there's going to be this display a commitment to responsible gaming. So it's giving the customer information about responsible gaming. The statewide self-exclusion is an option for the tribes to participate. So what this is the tribe affirming that they will consider participation in that self-exclusion program. And then the same thing with the problem gambling task force. Their work is ongoing, but the tribe affirmed that they would consider the results of that task force. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Julie? Julie, I'm not seeing any, and I just want to acknowledge that Senator Conway and Representative Kloba have also been able to join us. So we have those two ex officio. So welcome to you too. Go ahead, Julie.
Thank you. So I know that Cale Van Winkle is on the line, and I know that he has some information that he would like to share specifically about sports wagering. Cale, are you ready? There he is.
Yes, thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you, everyone. The chairman asked that I just speak briefly on some of the specific sports wagering elements. Chairman Maltos is also here today, and I know that he has some words that he would like to share with the commission about Soxhawtl and some of their history and the importance of gaming. But I was part of the negotiating team for the compact, and as I said, the chairman just asked that when it came to some of the more specific elements of gaming that I could share sort of where the tribe is coming from. So I just wanted to start off by thanking the staff from the Washington State Gambling Commission on working with the tribe to get this compact amendment done in a timely manner. I think the tribe is very happy with the way the amendment came out. We feel that it's well written, well organized, easy to read, and will work for Soxhawtl moving forward. The Soxhawtl Indian Tribe entered into its first Class 3 gaming compact in the year 2000, and this amendment will represent the third amendment to the agreement. The tribes has not had a Class 3 facility before. In 2018, they did open a Class 2 gaming facility, but unfortunately, that facility closed, and due to the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic, there's no plans to reopen that facility. But after the legislature enacted the ability for tribes to open up their compacting process to add sports wagering, the tribe asked to be included in that process in the hopes that someday they may choose to open a Class 3 gaming facility, and they want to be prepared to take advantage of the economic opportunities that that can provide to the tribe. The tribe is happy that this amendment reinforces the tribe's commitment to supporting everyone's interest in reducing problem gambling and in having the regulatory agencies of the tribe and the state working hand in hand to ensure a well-regulated, secure, and honest gaming for all Washington citizens. I think that pretty much covers my comments, and I would like just to recognize the tribal chairman if the committee is prepared to hear from him. Thank you.
Okay, Cale, I'll just stand by for a second. Any questions for Mr. Van Winkle? Nope, looks like you're clear. So welcome, Chairman.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. So I'd like to start out and introduce myself. My name is Nino Maltos II. I'm the chairman of the Soxhawtl Indian Tribe. I've lived in Darrington, Washington most of my life. My family has been here for many generations, even before the times of the treaties. Helping and supporting the members of our tribe is something I enjoy as a council member, and is what pushed me to run for council when I did. Next slide, please. We are located in Darrington, Washington. The traditional name for our tribe is Saku Mehu. We are canoe people who lived along the Sauk, Suattle, Skagit, and Cascade rivers. We today have about 314 members. Some services we have include a preschool, public transportation, recreation center, and many other government functions. Final slide, please. We opened a casino in 2018 and closed December 2019 for remodel. Unfortunately, the COVID-19 virus delayed the reopening to the point where we could no longer open. We then renovated the building into a recreational center for the members of the community. As Native people, we try to take advantage of all the opportunities we can to strengthen our resources for our membership. We build off the foundations our ancestors fought for and left us. There are very few exclusive opportunities for Native American tribes to get ahead. Thankfully, sports betting is one of them, and we are grateful for this. I'm honored to speak on behalf of my tribe, and I would like to thank you all for having me here today. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for the chairman? All right, not seeing any.
All right, thank you guys.
Back to you, Julie.
Chairman, if I may, it's
Sure.
time for public comment. One of the options that's provided to the public is being able to provide comment through an email. I just checked that email. We have received no public comment through our email today or at all.
All right. So with that, I will open the public comment period for this Tribal Compact Amendment. If there is anyone in the audience that wishes to make public comment on this compact, go ahead and use the functionality of the application here. Either raise your hand, or if you're having trouble with that, go ahead and unmute yourself and get my attention. Is there anyone who would like to make public comment? All right, seeing no one and having a full commission. Commissioner Reeves.
I assume I'm jumping the gun, Mr. Chairman, but I think this is where you're going.
Let me go ahead and close
Yep.
public comments, and then we'll acknowledge Commissioner Reeves. And now you're muted.
Oh, I was waiting for you to close. Public
Yep,
comment.
it's closed.
Okay, perfect. This is what happens when you raise your hand to get in the queue. Mr. Chairman, at this time, I'd like to move that we forward the proposed compact amendment to the governor for review and final execution.
All right. Is there a second?
Commissioner Levy seconds.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Reeves and seconded by Commissioner Levy that we forward the proposed compact amendment to the governor for review and final execution. Is there any discussion from the commission? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
You may.
I think you've seen several of these negotiations come before us, and again, as we work to ensure, the excellent partnership that we have with our tribal sovereign nations, I think this is an important step in ensuring economic opportunity for these communities on their own terms, and just really appreciate their good faith effort to negotiate with the state, and look forward to continuing to partner with them.
Very good. Before we hold the vote, I'm going to check with the interim director. Did we cover all the bases? Are we ready to vote?
Yes.
Okay. So with that, I'll ask the interim director to please call the roll.
Vice Chair Patterson,
Aye.
Commissioner Levy,
Aye.
Commissioner Reeves,
Aye.
Commissioner Lawson,
Aye.
Chair Sizemore,
Aye.
Senator Conway, Senator Conway, you're muted.
There you are.
Senator Conway votes aye.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Holy,
Excused.
Representative Klova,
Aye.
thank you. Representative Vick,
Excused.
passes 7-0 with 2 excused.
All right. Well, congratulations, Chairman Maltos. We have passed this motion 7-0, and we will be forwarding the proposed compact amendment to the governor for review and final execution.
Hey, thank you all very much. We are very appreciative.
All right, Senator Conway. You're muted, sir.
Still muted.
Senator, you're still muted.
Muted myself.
There
I'm
you
going to
are.
have to excuse myself from the rest of this meeting. Unfortunately, this is the same time as the Select Committee on Pension Policies meeting, so I am the chair of that meeting today. So I'm sorry, folks, but we need to, hopefully in the future, we can kind of avoid these kind of conflicts. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Yep. Thank you, Senator. Do good work.
Okay.
All right, so that's it for that. Can we adjourn? I guess we can adjourn. All right. Let's get back on track then. And again, congratulations to Soxwaddle. We will now move back to tab 1 and consider the consent agenda, which includes October 14th commission meeting minutes, October 27th special commission meeting minutes, new licenses and class 3 employees licenses, and sports wagering vendor reports. Before we go on, we're able to do those without a staff presentation, right? The sports wagering vendor reports.
Right, those
Okay.
are just information only, talking about the specific vendors, but they're included, each of the entities is included in the license list, so.
Okay,
yeah.
perfect. Any additions or deletions from the consent agenda? Okay, seeing none, I would accept a motion.
This is Commissioner Levy. I move to approve the consent agenda as presented by staff.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Levy and seconded by Commissioner Reeves to approve the consent agenda as presented by staff. And I will try to do a voice vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. I haven't said 5-0 in quite some time. That feels pretty good.
Nay, yes.
We will now move on to the interim director's report.
Thank you, Chair. So attached in the packet is the state, or is the agency's summary of the, that was included in the 32nd Annual Centennial Accord Report. The 32nd Annual Centennial Accord meeting was at the Squaxin Island Tribe. They were the host this year. It was in person for tribal leaders only, and other participants attended virtually as did staff. And so the report outlines a number of the activities that we did in conjunction with the tribes this year. And so I urge you to take a look at all of those highlighted activities that we were able to accomplish in 2020. Also is just a quick summary of sports wagering enforcement action. We worked with the Vancouver Police Department and were able to participate in the arrest of an individual who was operating sports wagering and using not only mobile applications to facilitate the fund movement regarding the sports wagering activity that was occurring online. And then lastly, just some information that on October 28th, the commission was served with a summons and a complaint as a defendant in a lawsuit filed by Lottery Now LLC, or excuse me, Lottery Now Inc. They're seeking a declaratory judgment in Thurston County Court, Superior Court, to find that Lottery Now's website and or their app, because they had a phone app, is not in violation of Washington law, and to allow them the ability to operate their website and or app in the state of Washington. They're also seeking an injunction barring the commission from taking enforcement action against them for the operation of their website. So all of this stems from cease and desist letters that we issued Lottery Now in May. They are not currently operating in the state at this point. The information is in your packet, and that is all I have to report on that in the memo. And then the most important things are some staff recognitions. So I see that I went out of order with the agenda, but if Crescenda Hansen, I would like to welcome Crescenda Hansen, and if she could come on screen. There she is. Crescenda, we are thrilled to have Crescenda join us. She is our new Chief Financial Officer. She was raised in Eastern Washington in Davenport. She earned her undergraduate degree and her master's in public administration and a master's of business administration from Eastern Washington University. And she comes to us from the Insurance Commissioner's Office, where she was a fiscal supervisor for 8 of her 14.5 years there. And she and her spouse volunteer with Old Dog Haven and provide final foster homes for senior dogs. And she, in her free time, she knits and crochets. And in the good weather, if she's not gardening, she is likely on her Harley. So Crescenda, I'm so happy to have her here. She has joined us on October 18th, and today is the 16th. And so in less than a month, she has accomplished quite a great deal. And so she has just been a very welcome addition to the Gambling Commission. So welcome, Crescenda.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
Do you want to say anything?
I think you kind of summed it all up, actually. So, thank you.
Crescenda, I believe, will have a report for you next month. So you'll have an opportunity to ask her many questions next month. But again, welcome, Crescenda. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then Michelle Rancourt, who many of you have worked with over the years, she has now had 15 years of state service. And there's Michelle. Glad that you could join us. So in 1983, Michelle started working at the State Department of Purchasing as a student secretary with DSHS while in high school. And in December of 2006, she joined the commission in the Forms and Records unit and then moved to the licensing unit. And then in 2010, she was promoted to the administration unit as Deputy Director Trujillo's assistant. In 2012, she was appointed acting executive assistant for 3 years, and then came back to assist the deputy director, and now is assisting Julie Lee's tribal liaison. So Michelle has been able to adapt throughout the years, and I've enjoyed working very much with Michelle, and I know that she helps coordinate a lot of the tribal activities now. Michelle was born in Olympia, grew up in Olympia and Bellevue, and after graduation moved to Seattle for 20 years and lived in Houston for 5 years. Michelle has a son who lives in Renton and a blended family of 5 beautiful rescue kittens with her partner Elma. She graduated from Evergreen State College in 2014, and in her spare time, she loves to travel to the ocean, write Google reviews, drive her Mini Cooper, which I know was a prized possession she purchased just recently, and she likes to spend time with her family. And so thank you so much for your years of service, not only to the state, Michelle, but it's been a pleasure working with you here in the commission for your 15 years and for many years to come. So thank you, Michelle. That is all I have for you.
Oh, you're
Michelle,
muted.
Michelle, if you would like to say a few words, you're welcome to, but you're muted.
Oh, sorry, I couldn't find my mouse, of course. Yes,
Check with your kitty.
yes, he decided that he wanted to be part of the meeting today. His name is Jinx, and he's my baby. So I wanted to thank the commission for recognizing me, and also say that I have had a great time. 15 years is a long time. It's my longest held position, and I'm really proud of that. So thank you all so much, and have a great day.
Yeah. Congratulations on the milestone.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Looping back around, are there any questions of the interim director from her report? All right, hearing none, we will now move on to the next item on our agenda, which is a presentation, our sports wagering report. And it will be our interim director, Tina Griffin, and I'm sure she will introduce Dr. Khalil Philander from Washington State University.
Yes, is Dr. Philander here joining us? So are you able to come on camera? I told him about 10 o'clock, so we may be a few minutes early.
Okay,
If
can
he's
skip.
not here, we could go to IT modernization, or
Okay.
my apologies.
Okay, not seeing the doctor with us, we'll go ahead and suspend tab 3 and move on to tab 4, which is a presentation on our IT modernization project. So we have Cy, our Chief Information Officer, with us. And Cy, I thought it'd be better just to say Cy rather than butcher the last name. So I'll leave that to you to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you, Chair. For the record, my name is Sai Vaitiswaran. I'm the Chief Information Officer. Thank you for the introduction and the opportunity to talk about IT modernization. Next slide, please. Thank you. In our Gambling Commission, to fulfill the mission of the commission, we use many IT systems. The most important 3 IT systems are GIMS, Gambling Information Management System. Gambling Information Management System mainly deals with licensing, revenue collection, timekeeping, accounting, my account, license issuance, tribal support and tracking system, and our fleet management system. The next system we have is case management system. Case management system is mainly used for case and incident management, for administrative, criminal, and civil case reporting system. Finally, we have Agency Information System. We call it AIMS. It's mainly used for gambling equipment and approval and for the lab. Now, as part of the systems, we are also given the time the systems were introduced to the commission. The case management system was introduced in 2003, and gambling information system was introduced in 2007. And finally, agency information system was introduced in 2017. Next slide, please. For any system to function, the three most important elements are people, process, and technology. Technology, the technology that is powering these three systems are at end of life and antiquated. And recent studies have indicated a high degree of failure in those systems and is a risk to the commission. In terms of the people, we're talking about both the employees who are using the system and people who are maintaining and managing the system. The people, the IT people who are employees who are managing the system are also approaching retirement age. And that's also a risk. Using older technology, we may not be able to find people who can manage the systems after they retire. And in terms of people who are using the system, there's also, the satisfaction of working the system. And when the system is antiquated and outdated, the overall satisfaction for doing the job itself is not very high because they'll have to do repetitively data enter in multiple systems to get a simple data entry done, which then leads to the process itself. Because the systems were developed in many years, it's not very streamlined, and the process is also to some extent repetitive, redundant, which is causing issuance of new kinds of gambling licenses. For example, we launched sports wagering this year. uh, we have to do a lot of work to really power them up, and so that we can take care of the agency business. That's the current status of the IT system. Next slide, please, Julie. Thank you. We conducted, I believe the previous CIO was already got the approval to go forward with the modernization. And at that time, legislature wanted us to do a feasibility study. The feasibility study is a way where which we can validate if whatever assumption is true or not. So we conducted the study March to July of last year. And the study validated our initial assumptions that our systems are outdated, antiquated technology, and it was an extensive study. The consultants talked to agency employees, interviewed them. We also conducted a request for information, RFI, to get what's out there in terms of solving our technology solution. We did RFI just for planning purposes because that's what the feasibility study wanted us to do. And the recommendation of the study was that we should modernize our system. And thank you, Julie. We should modernize our system. And not only that, we should also improve the agency processes. They go hand in hand. We modernize while at the same time improving agency business processes. And any technology project within the state of Washington has to go through OCIO oversight. We cannot do this ourselves. There will be a representative from the OCIO monitoring to make sure the investment is properly invested and we are doing the proper procedures in terms of procurement and also announcing the winner. Next slide, please. So based on this, we've been working to figure out exactly how we should proceed forward. So we have come up with a plan. This coming year, December, starting January 2022, for about 10 months, we want to document our business processes and make sure that the system that we're going to develop is cohesive, streamlined, and optimized in terms of processes, so that employees are also are able to contribute in the most efficient way to get agency business done in the shortest amount of time, giving more benefits to our licensees. We think about it'll take about 10 months. These numbers are all just for planning purposes. And then after that, with the requirements in hand, we will go out and procure the software. In fact, we will actually leverage the Washingtonian contracts, the DA is negotiated. We have many vehicles that we can go. Cloud contract, NASPO contract, or some of them, where they have the list of select vendors. And then once we find the vendor, we'll have to find an implementer or integrator who will then implement the project for 18 months. We got these numbers from our feasibility study when we did our request for information project, and we published a study. So these numbers are purely based on what the vendors thought it'll be. So the numbers are also, as you see here, came from the study itself. And this is the proposal right now that we have. It's more of information only. We are working with the WATEC OCIO. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the project, to initiate this project, we will be working with the OCIO, and then within OCIO, they will appoint a project consultant for us, and they will be part of our team executive steering committee, and we will get started. And not only that, the technology strategy itself is closely aligned with what the state wants us to do. So we will be aligning there also. They will be asking questions about it. And this is just, information only at this time. So we are planning to start next year, January 2022. And then after we document the business requirements, we will procure the software. And then once we procure the software, we will find an implementer who will then implement it for us. So that's the project. And we have a name for the project. Even though I've been calling IT modernization, the name for the project is Galaxy, but that is just a code name. That's my presentation for you today. Any questions for me?
Any questions for Sai? Well, other than the obvious, where did Galaxy come from? I'm not going to ask that question, but can you, so I don't even know if you can discern necessarily how it will work, but our kind of legacy systems all need to be able to keep working until we turn the light switch on for the new system. Is that contemplated already? Are we going to be able to kind of run both of them at the same time for a period of time, or is it going to be a light switch, one off, one on?
Well, good question, Chair. Project management and technology implementation, I have good amount of experience, and we will find the right vendor who's got similar experience or done this in other agencies for the state. And there is actually a period where, we start implementing the new system while we are also moving all the data from the old system to the new system. And then eventually the new system will take over. So there will be a period where this other system is slowly, I would say, retired. And there are well-known practices and procedures in the project management technology implementation world to do them in a very efficient way so that there's the least inconvenience to the employees and the commission.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any further questions? All right. Thank you for that presentation and update.
Thanks.
So now I believe I saw Dr. Philander join us. Are you with us, Doctor?
I am here.
All right. We will then now return back to tab 3 in our agenda and do our sports wagering report. And along with Dr. Philander is our interim director, Tina Griffin. So Tina, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. And so Dr. Philander, do you have some opening words while we get the PowerPoint ready to go?
Sure. No, I'd be happy to provide a few opening words. So, first off, I just want to say that, myself and Washington State University were quite pleased that we were able to do this work. I know I last appeared at a commission meeting a couple years ago, and I'm quite pleased that we've managed to find another project on which to collaborate and leverage the intellectual capital that exists in state here. And so I just want to thank you for inviting me to this meeting, and as well, thank you for entrusting me with this project as well. And I know I won't be leading this presentation right now as a matter of formality, but I'm obviously available to provide further commentary on anything that appears in the report, or to any other questions which you think, to which you think I may be helpful.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Philander. So,
Do we want to check, make sure that's working for everybody?
yeah, so we're operating a little differently today, so we're not sure if anyone can see. Actually, we can't even see if anyone can see our screen. So, just a moment.
Vice Chair Patterson, are you seeing the PowerPoint?
No, they're not. I'm just gonna have to share.
No, we're just seeing a white screen. Rashida, I've got this. Why don't you go ahead and put that screen away, if you could, and I can present, I hope.
There it is.
There we go. Thank you.
All right.
The windstorm just messed up all of our systems today, so. Okay. Yes, thank you, Dr. Philander. Yes, if you could stay and answer questions in regards to the report, that would be helpful. Thank you. So I'm just going to start. Next slide, please. And talk about what has led to the report and the funding for it, as well as the various components of Dr. Philander's report. Next slide, please. So engrossed substitute House Bill 2638, which authorized sports wagering at tribal facilities through compact amendments, included a change to RCW 946-090. And it requires the commission to submit to the governor and the appropriate legislative committees a report no later than December 1st of the year following any authorization by the legislature of a new gambling activity. And the report is to include information on the state of gambling industry, not only within the state, but as well as nationwide. Next slide, please. Oh, yes, Vice Chair Patterson.
So very quickly, could you please explain, I don't want to take too much time on this, but why is it the legislature asked the Gambling Commission to submit this report to them versus just having the report directly submitted to them?
I was not part of drafting of the bill. This would be a question that I would refer to Brian Considine if he was here, but I don't have that information.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, I can venture a guess. I'm guessing maybe they wanted us to do a deep dive on it, and are we being asked to comment on this report for the legislature, or just vote to move it on?
Just vote to move it on. That would be the last step. Yes. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Vice Chair. So we've already addressed that question. And so the next, so with the funding for the report, we're going to be using forfeiture funds to pay for this report, as the report provides information on how the illegal sports wagering market can be pushed more effectively to the legal market. And the survey information provided from the report gives an indication of the prevalence of the illegal market in Washington. Next slide, please. So Dr. Philander is the principal investigator of the study. He is an assistant professor with WSU Everett. His distinguished professional career includes positions with the University of Sydney, as well as WSU, as well as the University of Nevada's International Gaming Institute, where he was the Director of Research. Dr. Philander received the Research of the Year Award from National Council on Problem Gambling twice, most recently in 2021 and then in 2015 as well. Next slide, please. So the study, this is an overview of the study. It includes 4 general areas. One, an overview of the gaming markets and policies nationwide, as well as a survey of Washington residents about sports wagering, a market forecast for Washington, and Washington economic impact forecast. So the presentation today is a brief summary of the report in each of these 4 areas. The report will be posted on our website along with this PowerPoint once WSU has published Dr. Philander's study, which we anticipate will be today or tomorrow. And the information presented in these slides is taken directly from the study itself. And again, Dr. Philander is available for questions. Next slide, please. So the report provides an overview of many of the policy issues surrounding sports wagering as states have legalized sports wagering in various states. Policy areas for consideration include responsible gaming, anti-money laundering, know your customer, license fees, event restrictions, etc. And the report also provides, through appendices, very detailed information about some of these areas and the differences throughout the states nationwide. Next slide, please. As Dr. Philander points out in the study, the policy and operational choices a jurisdiction makes regarding each of those policy issues will impact their ability to curtail the illegal market. The ability to recapture demand from the unregulated sports betting market also depends on product quality, availability of online betting, and registration convenience. Next slide, please. Getting into the second portion of this report, a survey was done of Washington residents over a 3-month period from June to August of 2021. The study included 2 survey versions. There was a full version with a longer questionnaire to be completed on the web only. 3 contact attempts were made, and a small pre-incentive financial incentive was given that was included in the original mailing. Then there was a short survey that had fewer questions to be completed on the web and followed up with a paper version, again with 3 contact attempts. A $1 pre-incentive was issued, as well as a drawing for more incentive responses. So out of the 13,500 surveys issued, we did have 1,023 responses from unique households. So that was a completion rate of 7.6%. The rate is below the expected value, which may relate to the unique gambling-related content. The sample size also has a plus or minus 3% margin of error for the adult population in Washington. Next slide, please. So the next few slides are some of the questions that were asked of Washington residents. So to gauge the current sports betting behavior and in Washington, and to understand the extent to which Washington residents, both in-state and out-of-state, are already engaging in wagering. They were asked a question in the past 12 months, how often have you placed sports bets? 95% indicated that they never have, or if have, less than 1 time a month have placed bets, with 0.6% indicating they place sports wagering bets at least 1 time a week, and another 0.6% indicating several times a week. Next slide, please. So they were also asked where do they place sports bets? Over 50% indicated that they do so in office pools. They participate in office pools. 27% indicated that they placed wagers at sports books. 9% through mobile applications. 8% through websites, and over 5% with bookies. And those would be the private individuals that accept wagers. Next slide, please. Then the question where sports bets were placed, again, in state or out of state. And again, this is just trying to gauge the current sports wagering behaviors of Washington residents. So 34% indicated that they placed sports wagers in state. 55% indicated that they placed sports wagers in state and out of state, with 11% indicating just out of state. So collectively, these slides indicate that the data suggests that many of the wagers being placed are in the unregulated markets. Next slide, please. 13.5% of the respondents to the survey indicated that they would be somewhat or extremely likely to consider betting on sports if it became legal in the state, with 10.6% stating that they are neither likely or unlikely to participate in sports wagering. Next slide, please. So among the active bettors that indicated that they are placing sports bets illegally in the state currently, 28% indicated that they would move their sports betting to an in-state casino, with 23% indicating that they would move their sports betting to a state-approved online or mobile application. Next slide, please. When asked if the survey respondents felt gambling was acceptable, 37.2% of the respondents indicated that it was acceptable for them and others to participate in gambling, while 37.1% indicated they felt gambling was acceptable for others, but not themselves. Next slide, please. 39% of respondents indicated that they disagreed that Washington state should offer legalized sports betting, while 31% agreed to this statement and 30% had no opinion. Next slide, please. But when told Washington state currently has a policy for in-person casino gambling at tribal casino locations, and then asked to rate the extent to which they agreed or disagreed with the following statement. Respondents with the statement being, it is appropriate for Washington state to allow sports betting at tribal casino locations. The respondents to the survey were more supportive of this model, with 53% agreeing to the state authorizing sports betting at tribal casino locations. 27% had no opinion and 20% disagreed. Next slide, please. So those were a summary of the survey questions. Getting into the third portion of the report, which covers the market forecast for Washington. Dr. Philander posed 3 scenarios for the market forecast as well as the Washington economic forecast. So for this portion of the report as well as the next portion, these 3 scenarios will need to be kept in mind because he provides details on information regarding each of these scenarios. So the first scenario is based on sports wagering being authorized under Engrossed Substitute House Bill 2638. In the report, he refers to retail sports betting, which is important to keep the definition as provided in the report to include betting windows, kiosks, and on-site mobile at tribal casinos only. So this is as authorized in the state of Washington would be scenario 1. Scenario 2 would be retail sports betting on tribal casinos with online betting by licensed tribal operators with an in-person registration but also authorizing statewide mobile, excuse me. And scenario 2 and 3 encompass more of the nationwide approaches that Dr. Philander outlined in the first portion of the report. And scenario 3 is one in which, again, retail sports betting is available at tribal casinos, online betting for tribal operators that allow remote registration and statewide wagering. And so getting into the actual market information for each of these 3 scenarios. Next slide, please. So under scenario 1, which would be the authorized activity currently, Dr. Philander is projecting a mature market. It's important to note that these are mature market models on an annualized basis. So a mature market model would be anywhere from 4 to 5 years out from today, but these are based on today's dollars. Dr. Philander is projecting $94 million at a market maturity in potentially 5 years based on the model that we have as authorized under the House bill. And then you can see the other 2 models and what those projections are for the state of Washington, with the highest being in the online portion of each of those scenarios. And then next slide, please. And then moving into the 4th portion of the report, the Washington Economic Impact Forecast, again, sticking with the 3 scenarios. Dr. Philander looked at the expansion of sports wagering and how that might impact key economic indicators such as jobs, wages, economic output, and contributions to the gross state product. He accounted for shifts in consumption from other household goods and services to sports betting. So under scenario 1, the forecast is for 273 additional jobs to be added at the operator level, with 46 indirect jobs added at the operator level. That would be like support staff to your IT and HR for those 273 direct jobs. And 70 additional jobs outside of the tribal casinos based on the additional spend for a total of 390 jobs. Then estimated personal income growth for these new positions would be 21.6 million. Additional revenue added to the state at about 72 million, with economic output at 98 million forecasted. And again, these are in today's dollars and also at a mature market level, which would be 3 to 5 years out. Excuse me, 4 to 5 years out. And next slide, please. So this is just a summary of the economic impact forecasts under scenario 2, which forecasts adding an additional 609 jobs with a total economic output of 264 million a year. And then the next slide, please. So this is under scenario 3. Again, retail betting at tribal facilities, online licenses for tribal operators that operate remote registration, and sports wagering offered statewide once registered. It provides for the largest economic impact because of the increased spending along with the medium of distribution for the sports wagering. Overall forecast would include an additional almost 1,200 jobs additional and total economic output of about 472 million a year. So next slide, please.
Vice Chair has her hand up.
Perfect timing because we are now ready for questions, and I would like to thank Dr. Philander and his team for the work on the study and the comprehensive report. So,
All
yes.
right. Vice Chair Patterson. You look like you're unmuted.
No, I'm good. Thank you. And thank you, Dr. Philander, for your excellent work. And it's good to see you again. And go Cougs. So
Nice to
what
see
I
you
want
again too. Go Cougs.
So what I wanted to ask you is for a little bit better explanation of income, value added, and output.
Mhm.
So that's income to who? And
So
that's,
the
pardon me?
Yeah,
And that's
so
value added to what? And then explain output, please.
yeah, so output is the gross values. So I mean, the easiest way to think about that is sort of gross spending, which on a direct basis would just be revenue, gross gaming revenue, less whatever the opportunity cost would be in terms of deferred spending, perhaps from other industries. Value added reflects a measure of gross state product, which is really of that output, what actually accrues within the state in terms of that economic activity, which accounts for leakages outside of the state for things that are farther upstream. So part of the, so if you imagine that revenue that's generated by a sports book requires some inputs, whether that's, you know, just the technology that, you know, the computer processing material, the IT infrastructure that comes from, say, a gaming manufacturer in Nevada, that doesn't directly accrue in state. That would be something that's goes out of state. And so that's why there's a bit of a difference between output and value added within the state. Income is just the wages and salaries that accrues to those jobs that are identified on that far left column.
Okay, so this is above my pay grade, but I appreciate your explanation. I guess what I'm trying to understand is of those three economic indicators, how do we understand the economic impact to the players?
Yeah, so you know, that's a great question. The economic impact studies are, in some ways, a little bit of a boilerplate activity that focuses on a handful of economic measures. Most typically, people are concerned about jobs that are noted to be relevant in typically like political decision-making activities. What they fail to capture is this idea of the consumer surplus. And the consumer surplus is basically the difference between what a consumer pays for an activity and the actual benefit that they get. And I think that's what you're trying to get at is what's the value to the consumer for an activity like this. There's almost no good study in any single industry that accurately captures the consumer surplus. And the challenge that exists for that is because what we can't observe is the price that everybody's willing to pay for whatever economic activity that they're engaged in. The only thing that we can observe is demand at the margin of whatever the price currently is. And so, you know, some economists will do exercises where this was actually some of the work I did on my dissertation, where they look at if a price changed in a market, how much did demand change? And then they'll infer what we call an elasticity from that, which is basically what's the percentage change in demand for percentage change in price. And you can use that exercise to try to get an idea about what's going on, but you still only observe what's happening for that marginal consumer. It may be that there's, you know, one person out there who gets to, you know, pay $10 for a sports betting ticket, but really just values the idea of being able to bet on sports a whole lot and would be happy to pay $10,000 just for the ability to do that in a year. And so, you know, I don't have a great answer of what the value is to consumers. I think what we can say is that certainly there's a high degree of interest and engagement across the United States in this activity, which suggests to me intuitively that there is a lot of value being generated for consumers through the expansion of this gaming activity. Otherwise, we wouldn't see nearly the same interest that we do see here.
Okay, interesting. So a follow-up, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, the report indicated that responders, and your response rate was low, I noticed, but that the responders indicated that generally speaking, they did not support the idea of allowing sports wagering. But then when we asked them if it was confined to tribal casinos, then a majority of responders were in support. Is that correct? Is that accurate?
Yeah, so the way that you frame the question, I think, matters in this case. And just to connect these two ideas from your first question to this follow-up question, it was roughly equivalent of the people that support versus don't support sports betting when we just asked them that general question, should it be legal in state? And so to the extent that people might be in favor of it, those are going to be the people that get most of that consumer surplus that we were talking about, the people that value it, because they're probably the people who want to engage in the activity, or at least the people that want to engage in the activity exist within that group. So I think that's the connection between your first question and your second question. Sort of on your follow-up question regarding the way that we frame the question, the difference in the framing was that in the second part where we asked them about tribal operated sports books, we first prompted them with the idea that tribal gaming, and we didn't talk about tribal sports betting, we said tribal gaming, casino operations are already legal in Washington State. Now what do you think? And so
okay, I see. That's an important subtlety there. Thank you. Yeah. That's all I have for right now, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Are there any further questions for Dr. Philander? Representative Kloba.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Really appreciate that you were the person who was selected to do this study. I had followed some of your work with the symposia that you were doing about problem gambling through the University of Sydney, I think, and very interesting work. I'm going to recognize that you had a very specific to-do list and the things that you were to study. It was very prescriptive, and did a great job on that. But given your background, I'm wondering if you have any sort of additional, view or commentary on, when we think about the value to the state and how many dollars it's bringing in and so on. It wasn't your assignment to think about the economic impact or the social impact of problem gambling with this expansion and its effect. So I was just wondering if you had any of your own personal observations of how you think that might impact, or maybe what kinds of questions would we need to be asking to keep track of the kind of impact that it has in the future.
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. So I think that the United States and now Washington State are going through probably the biggest shift it's ever seen since perhaps the late 80s, early 90s, when a lot of casinos were opening. The biggest change it's ever seen in terms of the normalization of gambling within society and our culture. So what's become normative now is that everybody's seeing ads for gambling on TV when they watch football on Sundays or football on Saturdays. Every time somebody logs onto social media, they're being sent ads about DraftKings or FanDuel or BetMGM or any of these online gaming operators, often even if they're not in a state where that's currently legal and offered. And even media companies like Fox or ESPN are creating strategic agreements with betting companies in order to leverage their own brands to make inroads in this sports betting marketplace. And so you're seeing all of these significant organizations with significant reach into, you know, the hearts and minds of every resident across the country and within the state now engaging in this betting activity. And not only that, what we're also seeing is that sports betting is not just an end unto itself, but it's also being used as a funnel into higher margin online gambling activities. And so I think what we need to continue to monitor is how the expansion of these activities are starting to shape the way that we perceive and engage with gambling as a society as a whole. And then what are the sort of downstream outcomes of that? Now, from a problem gambling standpoint, you know, I think it's unclear what the net impact could be. So one thing, you know, I think there's an obvious exposure effect, right? So having more access, having more exposure to gambling does make people gamble more, and when you gamble more, that increases your risk levels. But if gambling also in some ways comes out of the shadows and there is a greater understanding of, you know, gambling problems and all the risks that can go along with these activities, perhaps there will also be an adaptation effect where people will start to understand that this is a risky activity because it's something that is much more front of mind for everybody. And so that's what I would think, you know, just sort of at a high level, the types of phenomena that, you know, I would hope that we continue to monitor. There's more specific things, more tactical things that we might want to look at from just understanding who's actually betting on sports now. What are the specific risk factors for people in those cohorts? How does their behavior migrate from sports to other activities? But, you know, that's a very tactical thing. But I also think this cultural component is quite important.
Okay, thank you. And I think that's an interesting observation about kind of keeping track of not only the potential risks and harms, but also trying to look and see if there's a benefit to bringing gambling out of the shadows and normalizing it, because then does that help, well, the people who need some assistance with managing their gambling, perhaps could take away some of the shame so that they might be more likely to receive the treatment that they need. So I appreciate that perspective. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you, Representative. Are there any other questions? All right, well, I look forward to actually being able to dig into this a little bit more. I see Vice Chair, go ahead. You're muted, I'm sorry.
One other question, Dr. Philander. I noticed that 50% of people who are engaging in this type of gambling is through office pools. And so that's not a regulated activity that's occurring in the state. What does your report indicate? How will the legalization of sports wagering in our casinos affect that 50%?
I don't know that I have a direct answer to that question. I think, you know, when we look at migration from the illegal market to the legal regulated market, a big part of migrating that activity comes from having a comparable product. So to the extent that there are viable legal alternatives that can effectively substitute for the illegal activity, I think you can expect that much of that activity will transition. It's not obvious to me that something like, you know, a March Madness pool would necessarily move over in the same way that we might expect somebody who had been using a bookie or using an unregulated offshore site to move into the regulated market.
That's what I was wondering, because there's a certain camaraderie associated with the way the games are played right now. And I'm just musing out loud. It's difficult to imagine the entire office moving over to the casino. But we'll see.
That seems unlikely to me.
All right. Well, again, thank you, Dr. Philander. I very much appreciate your work. I look forward to digging into this a little bit more, and I'm sure we'll probably be in touch for clarification if necessary. So thank you. Any follow-up for you?
No, just thank you, Dr. Philander. Action is needed. So the final slide, which we didn't have an opportunity to get to, is just seeking a commissioner's approval to send the report. WSU sports betting in Washington State to the governor and appropriate legislative committees by December 1st of this year.
All right. So commissioners, is there a motion to approve staff to forward the sports betting report to the legislature before and the governor's office before December 1st?
I'd like to make that motion, Mr. Chair.
Okay, moved by Vice Chair Patterson. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, moved by Vice Chair Patterson, seconded by Commissioner Levy, that we approve staff to forward the sports betting report to the appropriate legislative committees and the governor's office prior to the December 1st deadline as outlined in the statute. Any discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right, thank you. So with that, we have completed tab 3, and I think that we should do about a 15-minute break. Did you have something before the break, Vice Chair? So let's do 15 minutes, which would bring us back at 10:50. So we are recessed for 15 minutes. Thank you, everyone.
Chair Sizemore, are you ready?
Not quite yet. We'll come back on camera in just a second.
Okay.
Welcome back, everyone. Here's, we have a quorum still, so we will now move over to the next item on our agenda, which is a staffing update presentation by Interim Director Tina Griffin. And Ashley Layden is on deck.
Thank you. So start by saying that I think it's important that everyone is aware of the agency's current staffing levels, because we are at we have a significant vacancy rate. And if we can go to the next slide, please. And while we currently have a significant vacancy rate, that has and it will continue to affect the work that we are able to do. So we're currently facing a significant staff shortage, just as many other employers are nationwide. So I think it's important first to look at our historical vacancy rates. Next slide, please. So on average, we have averaged a vacancy rate of 8% over the last 7 years, with the highest vacancy rate in 2017 at 11.7%. In 2017, we had 13 vacancies and we're down to 101 actual staff. And much of that vacancy rate was due to retirements, as well as still recovering from the restructure of the agency that occurred in 2015. So in 2020, fiscal year 2020, our allotted staff increased from 114 to 119 positions. Next slide, please. So out of 119 positions, we currently have 88 staff. So we have 31 positions that are currently vacant, or an overall vacancy rate of 26% today. So significant staffing crisis. And I did use the word crisis. This does not include the 9 positions that we have already filled this year. So 8 out of the 31 vacancies, or 25% of our vacancies, are due to retirements. 19 of the 31 vacancies occurred this year. So we have had 19 of these open positions are due to people leaving this year. 3 of those were from retirement, 7 left for various reasons. I think it could be termed as part of the Great Resignation, a term that you're hearing out there quite a bit. A number of people, that includes people who left to go to different positions in public service, private industry. We've had probably, I think, at least 2 to 3 people have moved to other states. And then we had 9 people leave due to the vaccination mandate. And so 9, while 9 equated to 10% of our staff, 10% seems to be about average for state agencies. But when it's 9 people and we're already at 90, then it was a significant loss. Some of these vacancies are still left from previous years. Again, a majority because of retirements. Next slide, please. So we have had, we've hired 9 people this year. We hired 3 people last year. And usually we're able to absorb the work of the positions that are unfilled for a period of time until we can actually fill the position. But that's just not possible when you have 31 vacant positions, because 88 of us cannot take on 26% more work. Next slide, please. And to get an understanding of the impact of the vacancies on our operations, this slide shows the vacancies by unit. So the yellow portion, you can see the actual number of positions open by unit. And the training unit has no vacancies. So we're thankful for the 2 people that remain in that position. And but the enforcement unit has the greatest loss. There are 7 vacancies out of 16 positions. Next slide, please. So in regards to special agents, we have 65 special agents who work in our 4 operational units: the regulation unit, licensing, criminal enforcement, and the travel gaming unit. So we currently have 16 positions open, which accounts for 25% of our overall special agent workforce. So this also includes 2 supervisory positions. Next slide, please. So this reduced staffing level with special agents has impacted our ability to get the mission of the agency done. Our response time is longer to answer inquiries, respond to complaints, issue licenses, process applications, etc. Last year we hired 1 special agent. This year we have hired 3 so far today. Recruitments for special agent positions are very challenging to fill, as are all law enforcement positions currently. While we did struggle, as many departments did in previous to COVID, the number of applicants has just dropped significantly. There are some supposed reasons around that. Obviously, we have higher criminal background requirements. And another hurdle that we're seeing is that many law enforcement agencies are offering signing bonuses. Seattle PD just published a couple weeks ago that they're offering $10,000 to $25,000 bonuses. I believe even Spokane PD or Spokane County is offering signing bonuses. So we can't do that. That's just not something that we have the availability to do. Next slide, please. Recruitment is challenging overall, even outside of the positions, the other positions outside of our special agent positions. We, as well as other industries, are finding it hard to even get applicants. This can also be in part due to the state's vaccination mandate, and that's a hurdle that all applicants need to make sure they are compliant with. And the number of positions open statewide is very significant. We have, again, with 31 open positions, we can't recruit for all of these positions at the same time without having so much pressure on our HR staff that they leave too. So in order to balance all this out, we have currently 10 active recruitments. Together with the leadership team, we have identified 8 more positions that we're going to begin recruitment for between November and January. And then we'll analyze the remaining 13 positions for recruiting as we can, as our HR staff has the capability to move those into recruitment processes. Not only is recruiting take time, but onboarding takes time as well. So another thing to keep in mind is we're not quite out of our retirement bubble. We do have 3 staff who are or will be eligible for retirement next year, which could further exacerbate our staffing into next year. And 2 of those 3 are agents. So to help staff cope with the loss of so many of their coworkers, as well as the heavy workload they're encountering, the leadership team has prioritized work for the next 3 to 6 months and have shared that information with staff. We've shifted staff from their current workloads or current work units in some cases to units that are extremely busy, and have prepared staff to be asked to do work that that we need to accomplish as an agency that maybe they haven't done before. And if they are asked to do work that they have not done before, then we have made it clear that they will set their other work aside, because we can't ask them to just continue to do more and more work. So in conclusion, I just ask for your patience and understanding given our current staffing levels. Excuse me. Any questions?
Okay. Any questions for Tina?
Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you. And I guess the only thing I would ask is that can we get an update at the February meeting?
Yes.
And then play it by ear from there. But I mean, this feels like something that, I'd like to have a sense of, every 60 to 90 days. So, but I think if we do it in the February meeting with holidays and everything else, that might give us a decent look. Okay. Vice Chair Patterson, I see your hand.
Yeah, my question has to do with special agents and the big percentage of special agents positions that are open. And I'm wondering, are those job qualifications to be a special agent for our agency the same as what the job qualifications would be for a police officer, for instance? Are they different from police officers, basically the same? And so therefore you were talking about signing bonuses in different places. Are we directly competing with Seattle Police Department for those individuals? Is it apples to apples when you talk about that?
Not completely. I mean, we are limited jurisdiction, they're general jurisdiction. And so we would love for people to, to come and work here and recognize that they don't have to work shift work, and there's a lot of value added. We are really sprucing up our recruitment efforts and trying to get our message out through, video, because job fairs for the most part now are virtual. So, while, yes, we tend to have the same sort of job requirements, it does, usually if you want to go in law enforcement, we tend to get the people who are newer in their careers or close to the end of their careers. Yes, it would be great if we certainly could explore potentially if we could offer signing bonuses, but just even getting the number of applicants in is also just very challenging right now. We're just not getting hardly any applicants. So.
Well, thank you. This is the first time having served on this commission that I've felt an alarm bell go off with regard to this. I mean, we've had openings throughout my tenure here, but nothing like this. And it really undermines our ability to realize our mission if we can't hire our special agents. So I really look forward to hearing how it is you recommend we make those jobs more attractive, and how it is that we might be more competitive out there. I don't know if we need help from the state legislature or not, but I agree with the chair that I'd like, especially with regard to special agents, timely information.
Thank you, Vice Chair.
All right, and it feels like we should have stay on bonuses. So the folks that have been really working so incredibly hard over the last year or two. Yeah, when I see emails at 10 o'clock at night or 1 in the morning, occasionally from our staff that are, killing themselves trying to accomplish the mission, it's, it humbles me a bit. Commissioner Reeves.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That actually was my question. I know that in state service, it is oftentimes difficult to navigate because we don't necessarily provide bonuses per se. So I'm curious to know whether staff or I don't know if Suzanne is on the phone, but I would love for a report back to the commission at our next meeting on what some sort of incentive pay or gap fill pay or incentive program we can offer to our staff for those folks who are kind of filling the void right now and taking on duties outside of their normal job description, et cetera, and do that in a way that is legal and appropriate to state regulation and law. So if you could come back to us at the next meeting with options that we could present for all of our, at every level of employment. I know Lisa Benavides, Director Benavides, is probably cringing right now for that request, but because I know she's got a lot on her plate already, but I would like a way for the commission to be able to come up with a plan to show our support to the staff who are staying and who are filling that gap.
Thank you, Commissioner Reeves. And rest assured, Lisa Benavides is not cringing right now because hopefully she's on vacation and not participating because that is supposed to be the plan for today. So I'll tell her in a few days from now.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you, Commissioner Reeves.
All right. Seeing no other hands raised, we'll go ahead and close out tab 5 then. And thank you, Tina, for that update. We will now look to Ashley Layden, our rules coordinator, on tab 6. We have 4 rules up for discussion only today. The first one on our agenda is 230-23, which is self-exclusion rules. Welcome, Ashley.
Thank you, Chair Sizemore, Commissioners, and ex officios. I'm Ashley Layden, for the record, the Rules Coordinator with the Gambling Commission. At the October 2019 meeting, you chose to initiate rulemaking to adopt rules to establish a statewide self-exclusion program. At the October 2021 meeting, you chose to file draft language, including some changes that were made at that meeting for further discussion. Language was filed with the Office of the Code Reviser on October 21st, 2021 to be published in the Washington State Register, issue 21-22005, and was posted on the agency website. No additional feedback has been received. Final action may be taken on this language at the December 7th, 2021 special meeting. And if there are no questions for me, I'm going to turn it over to Tony Hughes to provide you with an update on the self-exclusion program.
All right. Any questions, comments?
I didn't know that Tony was speaking today.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
I think that's next month, Ashley.
Okay. Yeah. So next month, Tony's going to provide an update. Sorry, my apologies.
Okay.
It's all good.
That threw me off a little bit.
It's the way of the day.
All right. So this was up for discussion only.
Mm-hmm.
And is there any commissioner feedback? Otherwise, we will see it at the December 7th meeting. Is that correct for final action?
Mm-hmm. Unless people have public comment.
Yeah. Yes. All right, so with that, I will go ahead and open up the floor for any public comments on Chapter 230-23 of our WAC, dealing with self-exclusion. Anyone like to make public comment today? All right, I'm not seeing anyone unmute or raise their hand. All right, so we can move on now to tab 7, which is Chapter 230-19, which is our portion of our sports wagering rules that were bifurcated earlier. Go ahead, Ashley.
Chair Sizemore, Commissioners and ex officios. At the July 2020 meeting, you chose to initiate rulemaking to adopt new rules and amend current rules in order to implement the new sports wagering law. At the October 2021 meeting, you chose to file draft language for further discussion. This draft language is designed to work in combination with Tribal Gaming Agency's regulatory authority to determine suitability for continued licensing of sports wagering vendors and to bridge gaps not covered in tribal state sports wagering compact amendments. This language was filed with the Office of the Code Revisor on October 19th, 2021 to be published in the Washington State Register, issue 21-21-094, and was posted on the agency website. Feedback has been received so far from the Honorable Ron Allen, Tribal Chair and CEO of Jamestown S'Klallam Tribe, on behalf of Washington Indian Gaming Association. Staff is currently reviewing this feedback and non-substantive changes may be made. Final action may be taken on this language at the December 7th, 2021 special meeting. And I welcome any questions that you may have regarding this tab.
All right, thank you. Any questions, comments from commissioners? All right, well, then we will open it up for public comment on consideration of the rules up for discussion only today on WAC Chapter 230-19. Does anyone wish to make public comment? All right, I am not seeing a hand or anyone unmute. So with that, thank you, Ashley. We can go ahead and move to tab 8, which is applying for a gambling service supplier license.
Sure. Chair Sizemore, Commissioners and ex officios. In 2020, you initiated rulemaking to amend or adopt rules for both sports wagering and electronic raffles. This rulemaking has resulted in the need to amend WAC 230-03-210, applying for a gambling service supplier license, to include performing the testing and certification of sports wagering systems and gambling equipment as required by Title 230 WAC as services requiring a gambling service supplier license. At the October 2021 meeting, you chose to file draft language for further discussion. Language was filed with the Office of the Code Revisor on October 19th, 2021 to be published in the Washington State Register, issued 21-21-093, and was posted on the agency website. No additional feedback has been received thus far. Final action may be taken on this language at the December 7th, 2021 special meeting.
All right, any commissioner questions, comments? All right. We will again open this topic up for any public comment. If you wish to make public comment, go ahead and either use the raise hand function or go ahead and unmute yourself. All right, seeing no one raising a hand, we'll go ahead and close that public comment period. And we can move to tab 9. Which is WAC 230-15-050, minimum cash on hand requirements. Go ahead, Ashley.
Chair Sizemore, Commissioners and ex officios. At the August 2021 meeting, you chose to accept a petition and initiate rulemaking to address minimum cash on hand requirements to keep jackpot money in a separate off-site bank account rather than on the premises. At the October 2021 meeting, you chose to file draft language for further discussion. Language was filed with the Office of the Code Revisor on October 19th, 2021 to be published in the Washington State Register, issue 21-21-092, and was posted on the agency website. No additional feedback has been received thus far. Final action may be taken on this language at the December 7th, 2021 special meeting.
Very good. Thank you for that. Any commissioner questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and open up this topic for any public comment. Does anyone wish to make public comment on our consideration of WAC 230-15050? Okay, I'm not seeing any hands or anyone unmute, so we'll go ahead and close that out. Looks like a busy December 7th meeting. Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you.
All right, we will now move to tab 10, which is, we have 6 separate defaults to consider. And the presentation will be Adam Teal, our interim legal manager. Good morning, Adam.
Still got 44 minutes for my
check-in.
Good morning, everybody. Again, for the record, Adam Teal, the acting legal manager for the Gambling Commission. As Chair noted, there are 6 defaults in front of you. I will do my best to get through them quickly. The first, and these are just in chronological order case number wise, the first of which is Marcus Smith. This is cause number CR 2020-01067. Mr. Smith has a cardroom employee license number 68-33290. That license is not currently linked to an employer. It expired September 15th, 2021. While processing Mr. Smith's renewal, a Gambling Commission employee noticed that he had pending criminal charges that were not disclosed. A special agent ordered the certified copies of that case, King County Superior Court, case number 20-1-00881-1-SEA. The Office of Administrative Hearings, and he did appear. He also requested a stay hearing to hold that summary suspension, which was denied. As the case proceeded, he failed to appear at a pre-hearing conference. As a result, the Office of Administrative Hearings issued an order dismissing appeal on May 26, 2021. As a result of that order, Mr. Smith was given 2 options to either file a petition to reinstate that was due on June 2nd, or to file a petition for review on June 15th. To date, Mr. Smith has filed neither of these. As a result, the commission may take action. Mr. Smith cannot prove with clear and convincing evidence that he's qualified for licensure. And as a result, staff recommends he sign the order revoking his cardroom employee license number 68-33290. Any questions?
Right, thank you for that. Any questions for Adam? Hearing none, I'll check just to see, is Marcus Smith with us at this meeting? Doesn't appear that he is. Is there a motion?
I move to revoke Marcus Smith's public cardroom employee license for the reasons presented by staff and identified in the record.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Levy and seconded by Commissioner Reeves to revoke Marcus Smith's public cardroom employee license for the reasons presented by staff and identified on the record. Excuse me, any discussion on the motion? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and try to do a voice vote. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Go ahead, Adam.
Thank you, Chair. Second on the docket here is Conthea Chum. This is under cause number CR 2021-00047. Ms. Chum holds a cardroom employee license number 68-03941. That license allows for cardroom activity at the Great American Casino in Lakewood. And that license expires November 21st of 2022. The Gambling Commission received an anonymous complaint that Ms. Chum and other licensees had been playing in a regular illegal card game. When Ms. Chum was interviewed by Gambling Commission special agent, she acknowledged playing in the games and also acknowledged that the games that she was playing were illegal, and that she knew that from her training. Ms. Chum was served properly with the pleadings within 3 days of February 12th, 2021. She did file a request for hearing, appeared at 3 pre-hearing conferences. At the actual hearing itself, she failed to appear. As a result, the Office of Administrative Hearings issued an order dismissing her appeal on September 3rd, 2021. That order outlined that Ms. Chum had 2 options: to either file a petition to reinstate, which was due by September 10th, 2021, or a petition for review, which was due September 23rd, 2021. To date, Ms. Chum has filed neither of these. As a result, the commission may take action. She cannot prove with clear and convincing evidence that she's qualified for licensure, and as a result, staff recommends that you sign the order presented in front of you, revoking her cardroom employee license number 68-03941. Any questions on this case?
Thank you, Adam. Any questions? Seeing none, is Conthea Chum with us at this meeting and wish to address the commission? Okay, seeing no one indicate that they're here. Is there a motion?
I move to revoke Conthea Chum's public cardroom employee license for the reasons presented by staff and identified in the record.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Levy, seconded by Commissioner Reeves to revoke Conthea Chum's public cardroom employee license for the reasons presented by staff and identified in the record. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing and seeing none, we'll go ahead and try a voice vote again. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Go ahead, Adam.
All right. Third, we have Meow Lee. That is under cause number CR 2021-00310. Miss Lee holds a Class 3 certification number 69-24640, authorizing Class 3 employee activity with the Muckleshoot Tribe of Indians. That certification expires February 1st, 2022. The Gambling Commission received notice from Miss Lee's attorney that she was facing pending criminal charges. Excuse me. Special agent ordered certified copies of that case, King County Superior Case number 19-1-00517-0.KNT. And those pleadings showed that Ms. Lee was being charged with violating the Uniform Controlled Substance Act. That's a Class C felony, and that charge is still currently pending. Ms. Lee was served properly with the pleadings within 3 days of March 29th, 2021. She did file a request for hearing and was represented by an attorney through those proceedings. At the September 10th, 2021 hearing, Ms. Lee, through her counsel, withdrew her request for a hearing. As a result, Office of Administrative Hearings issued an order dismissing her appeal on September 14th, 2021. As such, the commission may take final action. Ms. Lee cannot prove with clear and convincing evidence that she's qualified for licensure. And as a result, staff recommends you sign the order in front of you revoking her Class 3 certification number 69-24640. Any questions on this case?
Any questions for Adam? Okay, seeing none. Is Miao Lee present and wish to address the commission? Does not appear so. Is there a motion?
I move to revoke Miao Lee's Class 3 employee certification for the reasons presented by staff and identified in the record.
And second?
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Levy and seconded by Vice Chair Patterson to revoke Miao Lee's Class 3 employee certification for the reasons presented by staff and identified in the record. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, we'll try a voice vote again. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Go ahead, Adam.
All right, number 4, this is Colleen Davis. This is cause number CR 2021-00685. Ms. Davis holds a Class 3 certification number 69-36427. That certification authorizes Class 3 employee activity with the Lummi Tribe of Indians. And that certification expires on November 24th of 2021. Gambling Commission staff were contacted by Lummi's TGA that Ms. Davis was the subject of pending criminal charges. Gambling Commission special agent ordered certified copies of that case. That's Whatcom County Superior Court case number 21-1-00453-37. And those pleadings showed that Ms. Davis was and currently is being charged with felony harassment, threat to kill, and that's a crime involving physical harm to another. Interim Director Griffin issued these charges on June 23rd, 2021. As a result, Ms. Davis received those charges within 3 days of that date. Accordingly, a response was required from Ms. Davis to be filed by July 16th of 2021. To date, the staff has not received any communication from Ms. Davis. As a result, the commission may take final action. Ms. Davis cannot prove with clear and convincing evidence that she's qualified to hold that certification. And as a result, staff recommends you sign the order in front of you, revoking her Class 3 certification number 69-36427. Any questions on this case?
Any questions? Not seeing any questions. Is Colleen Davis present and wish to address the commission? Seeing no one indicate. Is there a motion?
I move to revoke Colleen Davis's Class 3 employee certification for the reasons presented by staff and identified in the record.
Is there a second?
Patterson seconds.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Levy, seconded by Vice Chair Patterson to revoke Colleen Davis's Class 3 employee certification for the reasons presented by staff and identified in the record. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing and hearing none, try a voice vote again. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
All right. Number 5 is Robbie Denial. That's cause number CR 2021-00751. Mr. Denial holds a Class 3 certification number 69-38355, and that certification authorized Class 3 employment activity with the Tulalip Tribe of Indians. That certification expires on June 17th of 2022. In his renewal application, Mr. Denial disclosed a pending criminal charge. As a result, a Gambling Commission special agent ordered certified copies of that case. Snohomish County Superior Court case number 20-1-01592-31. And those pleadings showed that Mr. Denial is being charged with third-degree rape, a crime involving physical harm to another. Those charges are still pending. Interim Director Griffin issued the charges on June 7th, 2021. As a result, Mr. Denial received those charges within 3 days of that date. As a result, a response was required by June 30th of 2021. To date, the Gambling Commission has received nothing from Mr. Denial. Thus, the Commission may take final action. Mr. Denial cannot prove with clear and convincing evidence that he is qualified to hold this certification. And as a result, staff recommends you sign the order in front of you revoking his Class 3 certification number 69-38355. Any questions on this case?
Any questions? Seeing none, is Mr. Denial in the audience and wish to address the commission? Does not appear so. Is there a motion?
I move to revoke Robbie Denial's Class 3 employee certification for the reasons presented by staff and identified in the record.
Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second?
Patterson seconds.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Levy and seconded by Vice Chair Patterson to revoke Rob Denial's Class 3 employee certification for the reasons presented by staff and identified in the record. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Again, we'll try a voice vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
All right. Finally, we have Han Lamb. This is cause number CR 2021-00759. Mr. Lamb holds a cardroom employee license number 68-36130. And that license is not currently linked to an employer. That license expires on May 10th, 2022. A Gambling Commission special agent launched an investigation into Mr. Lamb's qualifications when criminal history that he had disclosed on his application did not match the crime that he had disclosed. When staff continued with that investigation, it was discovered that there was an exact name match that had the same exact driver's license. The only discrepancy on that criminal history search was that the birth year that was listed on that criminal history check was off 1 year. Otherwise, there was an exact match on the name, and match on the driver's license, and a match on the rest of the birth date. So the special agent looked into that match and ordered certified copies of a crime that was listed there. And that case is King County Superior Court case number 95-1-03829-4. And those pleadings showed that Mr. Lamb had been convicted of murder in the second degree, a crime involving physical harm to another. That conviction was not disclosed on his application. Acting Assistant Director Gary Drumheller issued these charges on July 27th, 2021. As a result, Mr. Lamb should have received them 3 days after that time, and accordingly, a response was required from Mr. Lamb by August 19th of 2021. To date, the Gambling Commission has not received anything from Mr. Lamb. As a result, the commission may take final action. Mr. Lamb cannot prove with clear and convincing evidence that he's qualified for licensure. And as a result, staff recommends you sign the order in front of you revoking his cardroom employee license number 68-36130. Any questions on this case?
Any questions? Right, not seeing any questions. Is Mr. Lamb in the audience and wish to address the commission? All right, I see no one indicating that. Is there a motion?
I move to revoke Han Lamb's public card room employee license for the reasons presented by staff and identified in the record.
And a second?
Second from Patterson.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Levy, seconded by Commissioner Patterson to revoke Han Lamb's public card room employee license for the reasons presented by staff and identified in the record. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll try a voice vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Adam.
All right. Have a good rest of your morning.
And it's still morning. That is
got it in there.
awesome. All right, moving along, it looks like we have one more agenda item and then an opportunity for public comment. Tab 11 is our director hire update, and I will hand the gavel over to Vice Chair Julia Patterson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I don't have a formal report for you all, but just wanted to give you a quick update on where we are in our hiring process. On November 10th, the commission came together in a special meeting, and the purpose of the discussion was for us to make a decision about which candidates to advance to the next stage of the director hiring process. We did have a broad public discussion. And then we looked at we evaluated the qualifications of those candidates, and we then made a decision to move 2 candidates forward. And so at this point in the process, there are 2 candidates that have been moved forward. We have expressed a desire to be able to interview these 2 candidates in person, because all of the other interviews have taken place over Zoom. And also there has, on the part of some commissioners, been a desire expressed to expand some of the questions that will be asked of these final 2 candidates. At this point in time, I can't really give you a time frame on when we expect to be taking a final vote on this action, but I want the public to know that there is nothing impeding our progress, and we are definitely doing our due diligence in order to make the best decision we possibly can. And I'd like to encourage my colleagues, if they wish to add anything to this short report.
Okay. Any other commissioner comments related to this? I think you summarized it quite well, Vice Chair, so I think that will suffice then for this meeting. All right, that brings us to the end of our public meeting, and what we always like to try to do is provide an opportunity for the public to discuss or, to bring things forward to the commission. So at this point, I see that Nancy Watson, and I'll have you go ahead and, if you can, go on camera, unmute yourself, and then I'll ask that you identify yourself for the record. And we'll go ahead and provide 3 minutes for public comment. Nancy, are you there? So Nancy, I see your hand. Can you unmute? Right now oh, she cannot unmute. I just saw a message. Julie Anderson, is there something you can do to help us?
Working on it.
Okay.
Nancy, your mic has been turned on, but it still says mute. Are you clicking buttons? It's going off mute, on mute, off mute. So
And is Nancy on a phone or a device with a screen? Can we tell?
she's on a screen.
Okay.
She wants to call in. Let me send her a message and
Okay.
send her the number.
All right. I will, while we're trying to get that worked out, are there any other individuals that would like to make public comment today? Okay, well, we'll kind of try to work that out. Any other good of the order that commissioners would like to bring forward at this time?
I have to say, this day has just been a blast.
You know what? Just keep them coming, right?
She has the number. Should be just a moment.
Okay.
Julie, there's a request that you add the number to the comment section so everyone can view it. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for your patience.
So Nancy, the number is listed in the comments section. Are you able to see the number? Okay. Very good, thank you. Okay, Nancy, we should be letting you in here in just a second. Nancy, are you there?
Can you speak, Nancy?
So Julie, can you unmute her?
Nancy, we're working on it. Vice Chair Patterson, I see your hand.
While we're waiting, Mr. Chair, I just wondered, are we able to call her? Would that change anything? I don't know.
Oh, I can call her on my phone. You can give it a shot.
Hello?
Oh, I think it finally cleared it.
There we
All
go.
right.
Awesome. Well, let me just start by introducing myself as usual. I'm a retired human resource consultant, and I'm the mother of 4 children. I also am working with some persons who have problems with areas of their life, and that's how I've become interested in problem gambling. My first question is whether my written statement can be read into the record.
So I was handed that just a few minutes ago, and yes, we can include that in the record, and I can make sure that all commissioners got it.
Okay, because I don't want to spend too long talking. I know your meetings are so long. I just wanted to comment on a couple of things. In my letter, I explain a little bit about how I became interested in gambling and also about how I have gotten involved with the Problem Gambling Task Force, a lengthy process, I must say, and one which unfortunately, because the process is so complex, has not resulted in me being able to participate actively in the process, which is fine because I'm happy to sit and silently listen at each of their quarterly meetings. But part of the reason I've been very concerned is when you look at the list of people in the Problem Gambling Task Force, mostly people who have clinical interests. The next big group is people involved in tribes or working as lobbyists for tribes. Then the smaller group is people involved in the state of Washington government with healthcare, working with clinical people, and also involved with gambling. Now, I don't want to sound like I don't think this is impressive because it is, but the fact is you have to have people who've been impacted by problem gambling in the community involved, and not just one person. You have to have people from each different group, which is vulnerable to problem gambling. And at our last quarterly meeting for problem gambling, we had an amazing man from Massachusetts talk about how they've been handling some of these things in their area. And I think probably a lot of people on this call have already heard his presentation, but if anyone hasn't, I would encourage them to reach out and get a copy of it. Amazing as far as the community involvement. So that is really my impetus. But you'll see when you get my written statement that I think the Problem Gambling Task Force is so focused on the clinical that I think it may take us years to solve the problem going down that road, trying to pay licensed counselors to noodle their way through these problems. I want you to consider that there could be some things you could do right now without anyone's permission to start getting your hands around this problem by using the Problem Gambling Hotline and having the people who call in, have them interviewed, not clinically, but interviewed to find out what is their problem, would they like someone to contact them, what is their name, what is their phone number, and where are they doing their gambling, how often, how many miles from their home. I mean, literally, these people call in. My suggestion is get every bit of information out of them you can. My next recommendation is we have police at all of the casinos. People at casinos frequently freak out. They start crying, they show distress, they may yell, they may be frustrated. And you know what they do when that happens? You know, they call security because you can't have someone acting like that in a casino. I suggest that we ask the police if there is any disturbance, to befriend the person, find out what's going on, and ask them all the same questions that we would ask on the gambling task force. My last recommendation is that we have to have a problem gambling oversight group from the community, not people who are paid to solve the problem or have a job responsibility, but people from the community who've been impacted and are at ground level and can comment on the approach we're taking going forward. I have another suggestion about how we could better publicize the support that the tribes are providing through their compacts. I think it's important that the community know exactly where the tribes are contributing, how they are helping. They've taken a leadership role, of course, with solving the problem gambling problem. And I think we need to make sure that none of this is brushed under the carpet. And basically, that's the essence of my comments. I hope I didn't go past 3 minutes.
All right.
Thank
Well,
you very much.
thank you for that. And we will, as I said, we will also include your written comments as well. Vice Chair Patterson, I see your hand. And you're muted, sorry.
Thank you, Nancy, for your comments. And I feel bad that you have expressed a concern that you don't have access to the task force. I want to make sure that you don't continue to feel that way. And I also wanted to let you know that I've heard all of your suggestions today, and I'll take those suggestions back to the task force. But the last thing I want is for you or anyone or any member of the public to feel like they don't have access to make suggestions to the task force. And I did not know that you felt that way or that anyone did. So I'm glad that I heard that. That's all I want to say right now, but I wanted to respond to her that way.
Yeah. Thank you, Vice Chair.
You bet.
All right. Any other public comment or good and welfare from commissioners? All right. Seeing none, housekeeping wise, our next meeting is December 7th. Is that correct? Stay tuned to the website or however you receive your notices. We'll provide those details for start time and agenda. Beyond that, go ahead, Commissioner Reeves.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to remind my colleagues that I will be absent for that particular meeting. I apologize that I was not able to reschedule my prior commitments, but will be unable to attend that meeting.
All right. Thank you. We are going to have an executive session for approximately 90 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and give commissioners about a half hour to go ahead and grab a little lunch if they have it. So if there is no other pending meeting, we will reconvene at 12:30 and anticipated to go 90 minutes. And the purpose of our executive session is to discuss potential agency litigation with legal counsel, including tribal negotiations. And we will return following the executive session for the sole purpose of adjournment. So with that, we'll go ahead and see everyone in about 3 weeks or so. And commissioners, I'll see you at 12:30. Thank you, everyone, for attending.